Greetings, friends. Welcome to week 42 of the Bible in 365. I hope that you are hearing me loud and clear this week. I apologize. I forgot to turn my microphone on last week, and I didn't even realize it until I'd published the video to you. So I apologize for that last week, but hopefully we're back up and running like normal this week. This week in our Bible in 365 readings, we are finally finished with the prophet Isaiah. That was 3 weeks in Isaiah. We're going to jump back into the New Testament, but only for a couple days. We're going to be reading two short epistles in the New Testament. They are the epistles of 1st and 2nd Peter. Now, 1st and 2nd Peter was written by Peter, and we're talking about Peter the apostle, the closest friend of Jesus during Jesus' earthly life. Now, the letters are written in two different time periods. First Peter is written sometime in the early 60s AD, about 30 years after the death and resurrection of Jesus. The second letter of Peter is written around 68 AD, so maybe 5 or 6 years later, but written in that same time period. Now, during this time period, the early church began to face the crisis of persecution. During the reign of the Roman Emperor Nero, in pockets, places throughout the Roman Empire, Christians began to be publicly scorned because of their faith. Sometimes they were detained or arrested because of their faith. And yes, sometimes they were even martyred for their faith. And it was during this time period that many of the apostles, including Peter himself, and also including the Apostle Paul, were themselves martyred because of their faith in Jesus Christ. And so in 1st and 2nd Peter, what we hear is Peter giving encouragement to believers to remain faithful and strong in the face of these persecutions. So he encourages them to remain faithful to Christ and to pursue holiness, even if holiness is something they should suffer for. It's better to suffer for doing good than to turn away from Christ, because such suffering, Peter says, will end in glory. So 1st and 2nd Peter is very powerful reading for all believers, but particularly if you find yourself experiencing hardships in life. These letters help us to put our sufferings into an eternal perspective, and they provide encouragement and hope that can give us the strength to press on even when the days are hard. So I hope that you'll find great encouragement in reading 1st and 2nd Peter. Now, after we do that, we're going to jump back into the Old Testament, where we're going to read another one of the prophetic books, and it's another long one. It's the book of the prophet Jeremiah. I like to refer to Jeremiah as the weeping prophet, because there are many occasions in this book where we'll see Jeremiah bearing his soul. Now, Jeremiah's prophetic ministry spanned a wide period of time. He started his prophetic ministry in 626 BC, and his prophetic ministry ended sometime after 586 BC. Now, this was by far one of the most difficult periods in the history of Israel during which one could be a prophet. Because in 586 BC, the Babylonians, under the kingship of Nebuchadnezzar, besieged the city of Jerusalem. They laid waste the city wall, they laid waste the Temple of Solomon, and they deported all of the Israelite officials. And so this is a low point in the history of Israel. And Jeremiah's prophetic ministry involved warning the people of this impending doom. Well, it turns out that when you're a prophet who's constantly warning people of impending doom, you don't make a lot of friends. And so Jeremiah lives a very lonely existence. He often feels criticized unfairly or greatly misunderstood. And so throughout the book, we'll see these moments where Jeremiah just laments of his situation. Yet what we'll also see is that Jeremiah has a strong sense of God's calling on his life. He is so convinced that God has called him to speak this message that he finds he can't stop speaking God's truth, even when speaking God's truth is inconvenient or even when it causes him public scorn. Now, Jeremiah does have one close associate in the book, a man named Baruch, who serves as Jeremiah's secretary, and he is the one who writes down much of what you'll read in the prophet Jeremiah. Now, lest you think it's all doom and gloom, keep your eyes open. There are some really bright spots of hope in Jeremiah. It is through Jeremiah that God promises future restoration for Israel. And it's also through Jeremiah that God promises a new covenant, the day when God will establish a new form of relationship with the Israelites, a covenant not written on stone tablets, but a covenant written on the human heart. All right, go ahead and start reading for week 42, and I'll look forward to seeing you right back here next week for more of the Bible in 365.